I said, Landra, just give me some Skittles. She goes, no, they're mine. She didn't understand three simple things. Number one, I bought the Skittles for her. Number two, if I wanted to, I could take them from her because I'm stronger. Number three, if I desired, I could make it rain Skittles on her life. I could give her so many Skittles she wouldn't know what to do with it. Our great God comes up to you and me, and we have Skittles, don't we? Some have a small pile of Skittles, others have a medium pile of Skittles, still others maybe have a big pile of Skittles, and God simply says, hey, can I have some Skittles? And like Landra, most of us go, no, they're mine. We don't understand three things. Number one, God gave us all of our Skittles. Number two, if he wanted to, he could take all of our Skittles away. Number three, he could make it rain with so much Skittles in our lives, we wouldn't know what to do with all of them. I'm telling you, generosity and faith, they're sandwiched, they're contained in this package of Skittles. Abraham had a lot of Skittles. He lived 4,000 years ago. Abraham had billions of Skittles.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Long for Truth. My name is Daniel Long. The megachurch, folks, is big business, and I'm serious about that, especially if you're a pastor that has a 94,000 member congregation with an $84 million annual budget, and you have complete control of your church, like Ben Young does. Ben Young is the pastor of Second Baptist Church in Houston. There's a lawsuit that is being filed against him, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, I want to look at a couple of Bible passages that are going to kind of set the tone for what we're going to be discussing today. So let's start with Ezekiel 34:10 that says, "Thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my sheep at their hand, and put a stop to their feeding the sheep. No longer shall the shepherds feed themselves," which is, by the way, what they're doing. This is what a lot of megachurch pastors, well, not just megachurch pastors, but a lot of pastors in general are doing. They're feeding themselves. They're not feeding the sheep. No longer shall the shepherds feed themselves. I will rescue my sheep from their mouths that they may not be food for them. And then 2 Timothy 4:2-3, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions. That is what these pastors are doing. So there's a lawsuit that has come against Second Baptist Church, and the plaintiffs, this is just a screenshot of the first page of the lawsuit. The document is in another article, and I'll show you that article shortly. Jeremiah Council Corporation, they are, and we'll talk about them in just a minute, but they're the plaintiffs. Ben Young, who is the pastor of Second Baptist Church in Houston with a 94,000 member congregation, and again, an $84 million annual budget. That's crazy. Ben Young and then Homer Edwin Young, both of those men are the defendants. Now, Homer Edwin Young is the former pastor. So let me just kind of give you the breakdown here of what exactly happened. And we'll do it in this next slide here. So you had some bylaw changes back in 2023 at Second Baptist. They held a meeting to vote on amendments to bylaws, and there was a lack of transparency. The critics and plaintiffs in a subsequent lawsuit alleged that the meeting was not properly publicized and that the true scope of the proposed changes was not disclosed to the general membership. And that's exactly what happened. They snuck this business meeting in, and they didn't publicize it like they should have. And there were very few members of this 94,000 member congregation that even showed up at this business meeting. And at this business meeting, they changed the bylaws and stripped away the voting rights from the members. And so you have the allegations of deception here. The lawsuit claims that the meeting was deceptively presented as being primarily about protecting the church against the woke agenda. So that's what they said the meeting was about, and it really wasn't about that at all. H. Edwin Young wanted to get his son Ben Young in to replace him as pastor, and he didn't want to take a chance that his son may not get in there because they were to vote. The members were to vote who the pastor was going to be at that church. And so he wanted to remove the voting rights, which is what he did because he wanted to guarantee a spot for his son, Ben. He had, key changes. The bylaw changes allegedly removed congregational voting rights, replaced the independent board of trustees with a pastor-appointed ministry leadership team. We'll talk about that. And gave the senior pastor, which Ben Young, this is wrong. Ben Young was not the pastor. H. Edwin Young was the pastor because he retired in 2024. And so he was still the pastor. So I don't know why it says that, but significant and gave the senior pastor significantly increased power. And now look at this one, the low turnout due to the alleged lack of transparency and timing around the holiday weekend. The meeting had a low turnout with only 200 people attending from a congregation of 94,000. And the reason why there was only 200 people is because of the way they put this. If I remember correctly, after reading the document, they sent out a newsletter and they talked about a lot of other stuff. And then there at the very bottom and at the end of the letter, they just kind of briefly mentioned this business meeting, and they said it was going to be all about the woke agenda, that sort of thing. And they didn't want a large turnout there, by the way. That's not something that they wanted. And the 200 members that showed up, most of them were staff. I mean, that's what the document says. I'll put a link, like I said, I'll put a link to an article that has a link to that document in it in just a few minutes, or at the end of the video, I should say. Lawsuit, a group of church members formed a nonprofit called Jeremiah Corporation and filed a lawsuit alleging that the bylaw changes were enacted fraudulently and that the changes transferred nearly dictatorial authority to the senior pastor. So the pastor, as I said, has complete control. So he replaces the board with this thing called the ministry leadership team, and nobody actually even knows who's on this ministry leadership team. This is something that H. Edwin Young, Homer Edwin Young, did near the end of his tenure there as senior pastor at Second Baptist Church. I want to just read a quick bio about Edwin here, and it says this: under his leadership, Second Baptist grew from 500 weekly attendees in the late 1970s to over 80,000 members across 6 campuses by 2019. Making it one of the nation's largest congregations. Young also became a prominent leader in the Southern Baptist Convention, serving 2 one-year terms on as SBC president in 1992 and 1993 during the denomination's conservative resurgence. His preaching is broadcast through the Winning Walk Ministry, and he has authored numerous books on Christian living. In May 2024, after 46 years at Second Baptist, the 87-year-old announced he was stepping down as senior pastor, naming his son Ben Young as successor, but vowed to remain active in ministry. Despite his humble upbringing, Young has attained significant stature and financial security through decades of ministry. One estimate even pegged his personal net worth at around $65 million, though this figure is unconfirmed. The wealth reflects, in part, the success of Second Baptist and its $84 million annual budget and extensive media outreach. So that is a bio of Ed Young Sr. Now let's head over. I want to show you this Jeremiah Council really quickly. But before we do that, I've got this article up. This is the article, by the way, that sparked this video. Ed Young's toxic church business practices and mergers infect Second Baptist Houston and other churches. This was actually put out, as you see here, by the Trinity Foundation. They are awesome. I will put a link to this article down in the YouTube description. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Jeremiah Council. So this is the statement coming from the pulpit. We are now this is Ben Young speaking here, or at least I'm not sure if this is, Ben Young's comments. Okay, so this is coming from the pulpit. And these guys are they're so deceptive. I mean, they are such liars. Statement from the pulpit. We are a very transparent church. And there's an MLT board. MLT comprised of pastors, lawyers, financial leaders. What's the response from the Jeremiah Council? If the church is transparent, then why won't they give the members a copy of their bylaws? So the members have no copy of their bylaws? That is crazy. Why isn't the MLT, the member leadership team, posted or published anywhere? Why can't the church members know who is on the ministry leadership team? So the church doesn't even know who their leaders are, other than Ben Young. Is that what this is saying? Now, at least who's on the ministry leadership team. Number 3, the reason is that the ministry leadership team is handpicked by the senior pastor, and only he can nominate someone for the ministry leadership team. There you go. Number 4, they do not want you to know who is on the ministry leadership team. As of last known makeup of the MLT, all but one of the MLT members is either family to Pastor Ben Young or paid by the church. Family members and employees are far from independent. We're going to look at this second statement here from the pulpit. The new bylaws put in place 2 years ago were designed biblically and legally. The trustees at the time voted unanimously, and then they were voted on by the church with a virtually unanimous decision. Here's the response. Then why are former trustees part of the lawsuit? It is because they were deceived and not told that if they voted for the new bylaws, that every member would lose their right to vote and there would never again be an independent board that is elected by the membership. Number 2, did you even hear about the vote in 2023? There were only 200 of the 90,000 plus members at the church-wide vote because of the efforts to minimize the number of people that even knew it was happening. So again, it was a meeting really that was snuck in. And as I said, most of the members didn't even know this meeting was taking place. Number 3, even those who did show up for the meeting were not given a copy of what they were voting on, and no one from the stage told them that they were voting to eliminate their own right to vote. We'll talk about the similarities between what's going on here in James River Church in just a few minutes. Number 4, no one told them they were giving virtually unchecked power to the senior pastor with no oversight by an independent board elected by the membership. Number 5, nor were they told that they would never have the right to vote on whether the church or a campus could be sold or merged with another church. We'll talk about mergers here as well, even if the transaction was done with a family member. Number 6, finally, they were not told that whoever was the senior pastor would be allowed to select the next senior pastor without a vote of the members, and that the revised bylaws would last forever with no vote possible by the members. All this is clearly laid out in the bylaws, and then the site tells everyone to please go ahead and call and and demand to see the bylaws, which they should. And any member of that church should do that. And the number's right there posted on the site. I'm going to, again, post all these links in the description. So let's talk a little bit about nepotism, because that's what is happening in a lot of these churches. And so you can see, first of all, guys like it's happened in Lakewood Church with Joel Osteen taking over John's place. You can also see it at James River Church as well. He and his family there in that picture. And let me just read what's happening there. Lindell. In 2023, James River Church announced a leadership transition plan that would result in John and Debbie Lindell stepping away from their roles as lead pastors. The church announced that the Lindell sons, David and Brandon, would become co-lead pastors in 2027. John and Debbie would remain on the pastoral staff. So you can see that this kind of thing, this is nepotism. These are pastors who want their family members to continue to run their legacy, rather than allowing Second Baptist, allowing the church to continue, and James River, by the way, allowing the church to continue with voting rights. They strip the voting rights away from their people. So I want to show you some of the similarities here between Second Baptist and James River Church. I've got a clip here from a video that Steve Kozar did with Grant Olson about a month ago. Listen to the similarities here in this clip.
What happened is that night, John and a number of other, I believe, people that he communicated in advance to communicate this to the church. After I've talked to a number of people now, what went down is it was sold to the church members that the church was growing, right? Needed to be more agile. Administratively, it needed to be able to act quicker to acquire property and adjust the bylaws and the Constitution. So we need our board of directors, our board of trustees that are chosen by the church members to have a little bit more authority to act more efficiently. That's what it was sold as. It was a tough sell, and eventually the church members were convinced, not unanimous, but they voted in favor of that decision. Here's the kicker, Stephen. This is the kicker. None of these people thought what they were doing is giving up their ability to vote at all. And that's the ruse. So within 1 year, this new board of trustees with this new authority, I shouldn't say new board, right? Originally, they were chosen by the church, and now they have this authority to rewrite bylaws and Constitution. What do they do with this Constitution and bylaws? All of those protections that were in it, scrapped every one of them. So they got rid of church membership completely. And they filed that in October 22 of 2020. So October 22nd of 2020, it removed church membership, and John Lindell was named the chairman of the board for choosing the board. So that is the deal. None of these church members knew that their vote to give a little additional authority to help the church, that's what they were told they were doing. They were essentially relinquishing all of their voting rights, and now there's no longer any members. So that's that bait and switch, Stephen, is what's got me so fired up.
So you can see the similarities there. The difference is that, hey, you can be a member at Second Baptist, but you can't be a member at James River because there is no longer any membership there at James River Church. John Lindell has complete control, though, just like Ben Young and Ed Young Jr. have at their churches. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Ed Young Jr. now. If you have never watched a video by Ed Young Jr., you've never listened to a sermon, well, you're not missing much. This guy is not an exegete of Scripture. He is a dangerous pastor. He's not even qualified to be a pastor. He's a thief. But I want to show you just a little taste before we start talking about Ed Young Jr., because it was his model that Ben Young and Homer Young, his father, used at Second Baptist to start that takeover there. Ed Young Jr. is in total control of his church as well. His church is Fellowship Church in Grapevine. He has a large congregation, and he has been in the media spotlight for all kinds of controversies throughout his career, which is what it is. He's been in all kinds of controversies. Let me give you a little taste here of Ed Young Jr.
The truth were known, there's a lot of people. You just are sitting in a dirty diaper, still eating baby food. The Bible says again, Hebrews 6:1, we go on to maturity. Have you been, though, born again? If you're born again, you're a new believer. And new believers, we go through stages. First is the pacifier stage. A lot of us and a lot of churches just sit right here in the pacifier stage, and we sit in the high chair, the I chair. It's about me. I don't feel it. I want more worship, longer worship. I'm not getting fed. You mean you've been a Christian for 30 years and you don't know how to feed yourself?
There you go. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you're going to get if you go to Fellowship Church. Fellowship Church also has 6 campuses, and again, they have been in the spotlight for a lot, or at least Ed, the pastor there, has been in the media spotlight for a lot of different controversies, including his series on sex years ago, in his video sermon on sex. We'll look at a clip from that in a little bit. But let me just head over here. I want you to see, this comes from his website. If you don't know who he is, this is a quick bio of him. Ed Young is the founding pastor of Fellowship Church, a New York Times best-selling author. Ed and his wife Lisa have been married for over 40 years and have 4 children, one who is in heaven. Fellowship Church is known for creatively and boldly communicating the Bible and equipping people for the challenges of everyday life. Through the leadership as founding and senior pastor of Fellowship Church, the church has been consistently ranked as one of the most attended churches in North America over the past decade. Since 1990, Fellowship has grown from 30 families to multiple campuses in Dallas, Fort Worth, and online campuses as well. With a passion to equip and train leaders in the church, Ed began C3 Global, creativepastors.com, and the Creative Church Conference C3, in order to provide resources to thousands of pastors and leaders around the world. All right, I want to head over now to Ed Young's Creative Pastors website. Before I do that, though, I want to play a little clip. This is an older clip showing just a little bit about Creative Pastors Watch.
In the past few years, Young and his attorney, Dennis Brewer, have created a number of for-profit companies generating money apart from Fellowship Church. Creative Pastors, creativepastors.com, Creality Enterprises, Creality Publishing, EY Publishing, Ed Young Resources, and UOI Resources. All the businesses list this as their address, the 5th floor of Dennis Brewer's law office in Las Colinas. But the resources used to generate the profits in part come from the not-for-profit Fellowship Church, such as Ed's favorite sermons that were delivered at the church.
All right, so let's head over and take a look at creativepastors.com, because that clip that you just saw was taken, I don't know, years ago. That was years ago. You can tell by the old internet the old internet look. But let's head over there. Let's head over to Creative Pastors and let's just take a look at his where you can buy Ed Young sermons. I mean, this guy's he's making money. This guy is loaded. I'm telling you that. He is living off his congregation. He's living in the lap of luxury. And that's what these guys are all about. But we can look here at Ed here writing and laboring over his sermons so that you can have the privilege of buying his sermons and using them if you're a pastor in your own church for only $25 a month or $199 annually. You can access the complete downloadable library of ministry resources, including high-quality sermon materials, outlines, transcripts, and media packages for Ed Young's sermon series created over the past 25 years. There's editable message graphics and slides. There's a video library of content. And of course, kids program, kids stuff coming soon, new resources, all that stuff. And here's his sermon series here that you can buy, ranging from $15 to $22.50, and you can use whatever you want from these series in your own messages. And but if you're looking to take over a church and you want to change your bylaws so that your congregation doesn't know anything about what's going on, maybe Ed Young's church bylaws kit here for $70 can do that for you, can really help you out there. Or you can buy the employees' policies and procedure package for $90. All of that on Creative Pastors. So you can check that out there. I want to play a series of clips for you now from Ed Young Jr.'s ministry. These are the antics that take place at Fellowship Church. And again, if you have never seen Ed Young in action, you're about to. So here we go.
They were dunked. They were immersed in the sweetness of baptism. Think about it. You have the dough. We're made in the image of God, the raw product. The dough is kneaded. Life happens to you and me. Obviously, it's God's will for all of us to know Jesus personally. Then the heat of being fried, the heat that happens when we become believers. And then right after that, at the precise time, we're dunked, we're drenched, we're baptized in that sweetness. Then we're on the conveyor belt and we're boxed up. Where? In the church. We're boxed in the church. But we're not boxed up just to have a top on us. No. We're boxed up to share. And our lives, John chapter 6, verse 35, can be sustenance to so many people. Crispus. Crispus Creamus. What a story. He was drenched, he was baptized in the sweetness of believers' baptism. And I've got to ask you a question. Have you been baptized? Oh, I'm sorry. This is where you're supposed to pour it, right? I know this makes some of you really nervous. Yes, the Bible says wine can and does gladden the heart. Think about Christ's first miracle. That's where he turned H2O into Merlot. Remember that? He kept the party going. That means right there, let me stop for a second. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. In the literal translation, if we could read a literal language, the Koine Greek, it's don't let the world squeeze you into its mold. And that's what, if we just sit idly by, the world, the culture, right, can squeeze us into its sexual mold.
Thinking about sex only the way
we have
culture
little sex as opposed to big sex.
Yeah.
Because remember, God wants us to have big sex, not little sex.
Okay. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah, Ed Young has talked about sex a lot at his church. Because that's what gets the people in, right? That's what gets the people in. You know, you talk about sex, you talk about things that people want to hear, that those who are unchurched want to hear. So we've got to talk about sex, we got to talk about sports, we got to talk about movies, you know, all this stuff. And that's exactly what they do, when in fact the Apostle Paul makes it very clear in 2 Corinthians 4:2. But we have renounced disgraceful and underhanded ways. We refuse to practice cunning or to tamper with God's word. But by the open statement of the truth, we would commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God. And he says to Titus, as a pastor now, speaking as a pastor, how a pastor is supposed to act, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about this. And then, of course, James 3:1 makes it clear that not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach, whoops, I just messed that up. There we go. That we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. So, yeah, that is something that we are not to be doing quickly. A person is not to just jump right into, hey, I really think the Lord is calling me to be a pastor. And that's why there are qualifications that are put up for pastors. There are certain qualifications, and Paul lays those out in 1 Timothy about those, what those qualifications are, and we've discussed those here before. But you can see there the antics of Ed Young, and that's just a sample. That's just a sample. I mean, there are all kinds of crazy things that this guy's done.
Dads and kids, single parents, blended families, grandparents, students, whatever. The family is the greatest entity in the world. It's the ultimate fight because we're fighting for the ultimate. The family is gonna win. Yeah, we're gonna win. Dad, dad, dad. Mom, mom, mom. Dad, dad.
And doing the whole baby shark thing with this congregation and having them do you remember the baby shark?
You a song, a little song. Some of you know the song, some of you don't. This song has special memories in my life because our oldest daughter, Lee Beth, and I, back in the day, did a talent show, a father-daughter talent show, and this is a song that we did for this show. I want to teach it to you. Some of you know it, some of you don't. They're hand gestures. Just go ahead and roll with it, okay? Okay, a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Baby shark, bum, 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 bum. Baby shark, bum, 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 bum. Child shark, bum, 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 bum. Child shark, bum, 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 bum. Teenage shark, bum, 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 bum. Teenage shark, bum, 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 bum. Adult shark, bum, 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 bum. Adult shark, bum, 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 bum. Grandpa shark, bum, 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 bum. Grandpa shark, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Lady swimming, bum, 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 bum. In the water, bum, 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 bum. Shark attack! Lost my leg, bum, 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 bum. Please be seated. You guys sounded great. You sounded incredible at all of our campuses. Shark Week, W-E-A-K. We're all Shark Week. Life is about swimming with a pack
Yeah,
of
I mean, this guy is just, he's a goofball. He really is a goofball. He has no business pastoring a church. But I want to go over to this Trinity article just for a second. I'm not going to put the article up on the screen, but I'm going to read you the first sentence of this article because I think it's perfect. It says, Edwin Barry Young, a.k.a. Ed Young Jr., has a Midas touch with his own personal property, but apparently the opposite tainted touch when it comes to church mergers. So let's talk about Let's talk about some of the church mergers that have taken place. I want to read a slide that actually comes from this article. It's a screenshot taken from this article. Let's look at it together. Trinity Foundation has discovered 5 church mergers between Fellowship Church and other churches. We believe there are more. Here are the names and approximate dates with links to 4 of the merger documents. You see First Baptist Church there of Miami, merged into 2006. Primera in Florida in 2012, Friend Church in 2012, Fellowship Church in Florida 2018, and then Journey Covenant Church doesn't have a date in Norman, Oklahoma. To the best of our knowledge, none of these mergers worked out, and according to informants, Fellowship Church Grapevine ended up receiving the proceeds from the sale of several of their buildings. However, according to an informant, Fellowship Church discontinued payments, defaulting on at least one of the church buildings, the one in Norman, Oklahoma. The attendees or non-MLT board members of Fellowship Church were not allowed to vote to approve these mergers, since all that was required by Fellowship Church 2001 governance change was approved by the board. So same situation there. None of the members allowed to vote on the mergers because Ed Young Jr. has all of the power, just like his brother Ben has there at Second Baptist Church. So what is Ed Young's salary? How much money does Ed Young make? How much money do any of these mega pastors make? Well, we'll use Ed Young as an example here because no one knows. No one really knows. Nathan Apfel is making a documentary on megachurches, and he was a guest on Julie Royce, and he's going to talk about Ed Young's salary and what he experienced. Take a look at this clip.
We were there for one very specific purpose, and that was to find out his housing allowance. So Ed is our example, our man in the flesh of the issues of housing allowance. And then Kenneth Copeland is another example of a loophole in the IRS tax guidelines. So every move we make is very strategic. And so I had reached out to Fellowship Church multiple times. They used to have a message board on their website. I sent multiple messages for about 2 years through that, never heard anything back. And then I finally, and there was no cell phone, there was no phone number on the website. And then I went back on maybe 4 months ago, and sure enough, they had removed the message board, but they had put a phone number. So I called the phone number, left a message, never heard back. So I called again, and instead I said, "Hey, I want to give. How can I give?" And within 24 hours, boom, they had returned my call. And I don't lie. I said, "My name's Nathan." I told them exactly who I am. And so then we called Dennis Brewer Jr., who's the general counsel of Fellowship Church, who's now who was ordained, which is wild. And so I gave them all these olive branches, so to speak, to talk. And finally, well, they don't want to talk, so we're showing up. And that's what happened. And I just made 2 simple signs, that said, "Ed, what's your salary and what's your housing allowance today?" It was not a threat.
Okay. So we're going to look at that clip in just a second, but it is crazy how he tried to get a hold of someone there at Fellowship. And finally, when he said he was going to give, he got a call back almost immediately. But just to let you know, the audio there in these clips, especially the clips here on Nathan, that is not our issue. That was an issue there on the on I believe on Julie Roy's side. So let's take a look now at what happened when he showed up at Fellowship Church with those signs. Watch.
Yeah, so we just walked on. We were very polite. We didn't interrupt service. A lot of people are saying we interrupted the service. No, I just wanted to walk on and hold these signs. And within 3 minutes, probably less, 2 minutes, I was surrounded by about 20 armed security guards. And this gentleman here said, "Hey, glad to have you back." And I said, "Thank you." And then the gentleman with the backwards cap, he said, "Hey, feel free to stand right here." And so they were kind of baiting us to just stay. My camera operator, Steve, asked them where the property line was, and they said, "We don't have to tell you." And then the sheriff actually told us that they owned the roads around the church. Come to find out they didn't. But so what I think happened is they wanted to arrest me. They were they wanted to make a show out of it. And it's almost, I call it like an autonomous machine now. They've created this machine that has a life and breath of its own. And once you get, private security, quote unquote, armed guns that are probably ex-military, they're trigger happy. They want to be the hero. And so just naturally escalate. And I was super polite. I was respectful. The sheriff was who contracted was wrenching down on my arm and really trying to hurt me. And I was like, hey, sir, can you please stop? Here he's telling my camera operator that he can't film, which is not legal. Come to find out, I talked to someone at the Department of Justice. They actually called me. And this sheriff, if he's contracted by Copeland's church, cannot legally be uniformed. And that's probably why he wasn't wearing a body camera. But so here's Steve, the big bearded guy. He's my camera operator. And he said, hey, I'm here. I'm not leaving this property. I don't know the property lines. Arrest me. They would not arrest him. And he's like, hey, I'm ready to sit next to Nathan. Put me in handcuffs right now. And they would not do it. And so they wanted to make an example of me, which I'll tell you right now, they picked the wrong situation, because their lapse in judgment and their hiccups from a security perspective has created a massive legal problem for them. And we're going to run this straight through to show people what's going on.
Folks, these men do not care about you. They are power hungry. They are money hungry. Their desire is to build an empire for themselves and their family. They care more about money and prestige than they do about their own people. And that has been proven time and time again. I hope if you have been helped by this episode, you will pass it along to others. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.